5 words in a whispered conversation changed everything. $3 million. We just wait. My name is Benjamin Crawford, Colonel, retired, United States Army. 48 years of marriage, 30 years of military service, a bronze star on my wall, and a son I raised to honor family above all else. But that night, hiding in my own hallway, I heard my daughter-in-law planning my murder while my son calculated the $3 million insurance payout. My wife of nearly 5 decades had already filed divorce papers, and they were counting down the days until my heart would naturally give out from the medications they'd been secretly switching. They saw a confused old man who'd outlived his usefulness, a burden with a generous life insurance policy and inconvenient longevity. But I wasn't confused. I was gathering evidence. Because when your own family mistakes your kindness for weakness, when they see your love as leverage, when they plan your funeral before your final breath, that's when they discover they chose the wrong target. I hope you'll stick around for this story, and if you do, drop a comment letting me know what you think about family loyalty. This is how I turned their betrayal into the biggest mistake of their lives. September 12th, 2024. That's the day everything changed. I had a stroke. Not a big one, the doctors said. Just enough to weaken my left side and make my son Jason think I was helpless. Just enough to give him the excuse he'd been waiting for. "Dad, you can't live alone anymore," he said, standing in my hospital room with that fake concern plastered on his face. "Stephanie and I insist. You're coming home with us." Home. That's what he called his house in the suburbs. 3 bedrooms, 2-car garage, the kind of place where dreams go to die quietly. But I wasn't dreaming anymore. I was surviving. The first sign I was being played came with the pills. Every morning, Stephanie would bring me a little plastic cup with my medications. Lisinopril for blood pressure. Metoprolol for my heart. Simple enough, except the pills looked different. The lisinopril was supposed to be white and round. These were oval and pink. When I asked about it, Stephanie just smiled that pharmacy smile. "Oh, they changed manufacturers, Ben. Same medicine, different company." I nodded like the confused old man they wanted me to be. But I'd spent 30 years in military intelligence. You don't survive that long without learning to spot a lie. The second sign was my bank account. Jason sat me down at his kitchen table with a stack of papers. "Dad, we need to simplify your finances. All these investment accounts are too complicated for someone in your condition." My condition. That's what they called a minor stroke that left me walking with a slight limp. "I've set up a basic checking account," he continued. "We'll transfer your pension there each month. $3,200. That should cover your needs." $3,200. My military pension. But that wasn't all I had, and Jason knew it. Or thought he did. What he didn't know was that I'd been a lot smarter with my money than anyone realized. I signed the papers anyway, let them think they had control. But the real punch came 3 weeks later. I was supposed to be napping in my new bedroom, the guest room with the single bed and the view of their trash cans, when I heard Linda on the phone. Linda, my wife of 48 years, the woman who'd stood by me through 3 deployments, 2 promotions, and a retirement I thought we'd enjoy together. "No, Max, he doesn't suspect anything," she was saying. "The divorce papers are already filed. Once this is over, we can be together." Max Walsh, the golf instructor at Meadowbrook Country Club, 52 years old, divorced, drives a red Corvette that screams midlife crisis. I listened to my wife plan her new life while I was supposedly dying in the next room. She filed for divorce on October 1st, citing irreconcilable differences, 48 years reduced to legal terminology, and a signature on a document I wasn't supposed to see. But I did see it, hidden in her jewelry box, right next to the engagement ring I'd bought with my first sergeant's pay in 1976. "He's getting more confused every day," I heard her tell someone else later. "Sometimes he doesn't even remember where he put things. The doctors say it's normal after a stroke." Normal. Everything was normal. My confusion, my weakness, my steady decline toward a convenient death. They had it all figured out. The helpless old soldier who couldn't manage his own life, let alone defend it. But here's what they didn't figure on. I wasn't as helpless as I looked, and I definitely wasn't as confused as I acted. Because when you've spent 3 decades gathering intelligence on enemies who wanted you dead, you pick up a few tricks. And sometimes, those tricks come in handy when the enemies live in your own house. October 8th. That's when I found the insurance documents. I wasn't supposed to be in Jason's home office, but when you're treated like a prisoner, sometimes you have to act like one, break the rules, gather intelligence. The life insurance policy was sitting right there on his desk. Northwestern Mutual, Benjamin Crawford, policyholder. Date of birth, March 15th, 1950. Beneficiary, Jason Crawford, son. Death benefit, $3 million. Premium, $850 monthly. Automatically deducted from what they thought was my simplified checking account. I photographed every page with the iPhone they'd given me for emergencies. The same phone they assumed I barely knew how to use. That's when the real picture started coming together. Jason was drowning. His desk drawers told the whole story. Past due notices from Silver Lake Gaming Corporation. $485,000 in casino debt. Interest compounding weekly. Notes in his handwriting. Need timeline. Medical emergency, ill natural. No investigation if gradual. Gradual. They weren't planning to shoot me or push me down the stairs. Too messy, too many questions. They were planning to kill me slowly. I found Stephanie's research 2 days later, hidden in her pharmaceutical samples case. Digitoxin interactions, potassium chloride injection protocols. Side effects of medication overdose. She'd written notes in the margins. Untraceable after 48 hours. Mimics natural cardiac arrest. Medicare won't investigate if patient history supports. My patient history. A 74-year-old man with high blood pressure and recent stroke. The perfect candidate for sudden cardiac death. No one would question it. No one would investigate. They'd collect their $3 million and move on with their lives. Jason would pay off his gambling debts. Stephanie would probably get a promotion at work, nothing like successful widow benefits to boost your career. And Linda, she'd get half of what they thought I was worth in the divorce, plus the freedom to run off with Max in his ridiculous car. But if I stayed quiet, if I let this play out their way, I'd lose everything. Not just my life, that was obvious. I'd lose my dignity. Die as the confused, helpless old man they wanted me to be. I'd lose my legacy. 30 years of military service reduced to a footnote in an insurance claim. I'd lose justice. They'd get away with it. Murder, insurance fraud, elder abuse, all of it swept under the rug of a natural death. And I'd lose something else. Something that maybe mattered most. I'd lose the chance to teach them that respect isn't something you lose when you get old. It's something you earn through a lifetime of service, and it doesn't disappear just because your left hand shakes a little. $3 million. That's what they thought my life was worth, but they'd made a critical miscalculation. See, while they were busy researching how to kill me quietly, I was doing my own research. About them. Jason's gambling addiction didn't start with casino debts. I found records going back 3 years. Sports betting, online poker, day trading with money he didn't have. He'd been stealing from Pinnacle Insurance Group, too. Small amounts from client escrow accounts. Nothing anyone would notice immediately, but enough to keep him afloat until the big score. My big score. Stephanie wasn't just a pharmaceutical sales rep with access to dangerous drugs. She was having an affair with Dr. Bebap. Kevin Morrison, a cardiologist at Denver Presbyterian, the same doctor who'd treated me after my stroke, the same doctor who'd signed off on my complicated medication regimen, the same doctor who'd be performing my autopsy when I died of natural causes. It was perfect. Almost. But they'd forgotten one important detail. I wasn't just any old man they could manipulate and murder. I was a colonel in the United States Army Intelligence Corps. I'd spent 30 years identifying threats, gathering evidence, and neutralizing enemies who thought they were smarter than me. And in 30 years, I'd never lost a mission. If they thought I was going to start losing now, they were about to learn a very expensive lesson. Because while they were planning my death, I was planning their destruction. And unlike their plan, mine was going to work. The stakes were simple. Either I exposed them and took back control of my life, or they killed me and got away with murder. But there was a third option they hadn't considered. What if the helpless old soldier they were trying to kill turned out to be the most dangerous enemy they'd ever faced? They were about to find out. October 15th, 10:32 p.m. Kitchen conversation. That's when I heard it. The whisper that changed everything. The life insurance payout is $3 million. We just need to wait. Stephanie's voice, soft, calculating, deadly. I was supposed to be asleep, supposed to be in my room, medicated and harmless. But I'd started palming the pills instead of swallowing them, keeping my mind clear while they thought I was getting more confused. How much longer? Jason's voice, impatient, nervous. Dr. Morrison says maybe 2 weeks. The new dosage should do it. His heart can't take much more stress. New dosage. That explained why the pills looked different. I pressed record on my iPhone, started gathering the evidence that would destroy them. But they weren't done talking. What about your dad's real assets? Stephanie asked. Linda mentioned he might have more than we thought. He's bluffing. Old man's pride. You know how these military guys are. Always acting like they're more important than they really are. Always acting like they're more important than they really are. 30 years of service. Decorated veteran. Bronze Star recipient. More important than they really are. The next morning I decided to test their respect level. Jason, I need to go to the bank, I said over breakfast. Check on my account. He looked up from his phone, annoyed. Dad, we talked about this. Your finances are handled now. You don't need to worry about that stuff anymore. I'd like to see my statements. Why? Don't you trust us? The question hung in the air. Stephanie stopped buttering her toast. Linda kept reading her magazine, but I could see her listening. I trust you, I said quietly. I just want to understand what's happening with my money. Nothing's happening with it, Jason snapped. It's sitting in the bank, earning interest, same as always. What interest rate? What? What interest rate is my money earning? He stared at me like I'd asked him to solve quantum physics. I don't know, Dad. Bank rates? Whatever they give you. 0.05%, I said. That's what basic checking accounts earn. On $3,000, that's 18 cents a month. Stephanie and Jason exchanged glances, the kind of look that said, why is he asking about this? You're overthinking it, Stephanie said with her fake smile. Money stuff is complicated. That's why we simplified everything. Simplified, their favorite word. In 30 years of military service, I said, keeping my voice level, I learned that simple plans usually work best, but I also learned to read the fine print. What fine print? Jason's voice had an edge now. On my insurance policy, the one with the $3 million death benefit. Dead silence. Linda looked up from her magazine. Stephanie's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Jason's face went pale. How do you know about that? He asked. It's my policy, son. I signed the paperwork. But you were confused that day. You didn't understand what you were signing. Confused. There was that word again. I understood perfectly, I said. $3 million if I die. $850 a month in premiums. Automatic withdrawal from my account. Dad, that policy is for your protection, Stephanie jumped in. To make sure we can handle your final expenses. Final expenses? I repeated. Like what? Funeral costs, medical bills, you know. The average funeral costs $12,000, I said. Even with medical bills, let's say $50,000 total. That leaves $2,950,000 unaccounted for. Jason stood up abruptly. This conversation's over. No, son, it's just beginning. And he stared down at me. And for the first time since I'd moved in, I saw something real in his face. Not fake concern, not condescending patience. Fear. You don't understand the financial pressure we're under, he said. Taking care of you's expensive. How expensive? More than you know. Try me. He started pacing. Stephanie was watching him like she was afraid he might crack. You want numbers, Dad? Fine. Your medications cost $400 a month. Your doctor visits, $200. Food, utilities, the extra bedroom we had to set up, It adds up. To how much annually? Maybe 10,000. $10,000 to keep me alive for a year, I said, versus $3 million if I die. It's not about the money. But his voice cracked when he said it, and that's when I knew I had them. Then what is it about? It's about quality of life. Your quality of life. My quality of life would improve if you stopped switching my medications. Another silence. Longer this time. Stephanie recovered first. Dr. Morrison adjusted your prescriptions. It's standard post-stroke protocol. Dr. Morrison, who you're sleeping with. The words came out calm, matter of fact, like commenting on the weather, but the effect was like dropping a grenade in the kitchen. Linda's magazine hit the table. Jason's mouth fell open. Stephanie turned white as her pharmaceutical samples. That's not true, Stephanie stammered. October 3rd, 4:17 p.m., Denver Presbyterian Hospital parking garage. Level 3. Blue Honda Civic, license plate JHG8542. I'd followed them. Not hard when they thought I was too confused to leave the house alone. You hired a private investigator, Jason said, his voice shaking. I didn't need to hire anyone, I replied. I am an investigator. That's when they realized their mistake. They'd been treating me like a victim. But I wasn't a victim. I was a soldier, and soldiers don't surrender. They fight back. The phone started ringing that afternoon. Not my phone. That sat silent on my nightstand, displaying only the few contacts they thought I should have. This was different. Quick bursts, 3 rings, then silence. Then again an hour later. Who keeps calling? Jason asked, checking his phone. Nobody, Stephanie said. But she was lying. I could tell by the way she avoided eye contact. The truth was, I'd been making calls, careful ones, from the landline in the basement when they thought I was watching television. Military intelligence teaches you patience. You don't blow your cover until you're ready. You don't reveal your assets until the moment of maximum impact. But you do prepare. The first call had been to General Elizabeth Barnes, my former commanding officer at Peterson Air Force Base. Now she worked as a Pentagon liaison for Veteran Affairs. Ben Crawford, she'd said when I identified myself. I heard about your stroke. How are you holding up? I'm holding up fine, General, but I have a situation. What kind of situation? The kind that requires discretion and proper documentation. There was a pause. In military speak, that meant I needed help with something illegal, but couldn't say so over an unsecured line. Are you safe where you are? For now. Do you need immediate assistance? Not immediate, but soon. Understood. I'll make some calls. The second call was to Detective Samuel Foster, Colorado Springs Police Department, former military police, current specialist in veteran fraud cases. Colonel Crawford, he'd said, General Barnes said you might be calling. What can I do for you? I need to know the proper procedure for reporting attempted murder. Attempted murder is a serious charge, Colonel. You'll need evidence. I have evidence. What kind of evidence? Audio recordings, financial documents, medical records, witness testimony. How many recordings? 47 conversations over 6 weeks. Jesus, that's comprehensive. I was trained to be thorough, Detective. The third call was to Attorney Gregory Penn, JAG Corps veteran, now handling military estate planning and veteran legal issues. Mr. Crawford, the General briefed me on your situation. Before we proceed, I need to ask, are you under any form of medication that might affect your cognitive abilities? They think I am, I said, but I've been palming the pills for 3 weeks. Smart. Do you have the pills they've been giving you? I've saved everyone, in a baggie, labeled and dated. Have you had them tested? Not yet, but I have contacts at the VA hospital lab. Good. We'll need that analysis. What about financial documents? Complete records, bank statements, insurance policies, debt notices, all photographed and backed up to cloud storage. Cloud storage they don't know about? Military encrypted account. Access requires biometric confirmation. There was a pause. Then Penn chuckled. Colonel, I think your family severely underestimated their target. But I wasn't done preparing. The basement of Jason's house had a corner where I could work without being seen. Behind the water heater, I'd set up what military intelligence calls a documentation station. Copies of every recording, printed and filed. Bank statements showing my real net worth, 4.8 million in defense contractor stock, not the 3,000 they thought was my total assets. Property deeds for the storage unit across town where I kept my real files, the one registered under my middle name, not my first. The will I'd drafted in 1998, leaving everything to military charities, the one that superseded any new will they might try to forge. And the photos. Dr. Morrison and Stephanie in the hospital parking garage, Linda and Max at Meadowbrook Country Club, Jason at Silver Lake Casino, losing money he didn't have. All evidence, all documented, all ready for the right moment. Because here's what they didn't understand about military strategy. You don't attack until you've secured multiple lines of retreat and identified all enemy positions. They thought they were hunting one old man, but what they'd actually done was walk into a trap set by someone who'd been catching smarter enemies than them for 30 years. The phone rang again. 3 rings, then silence. Stephanie looked nervous. Jason kept checking his watch. They were starting to sense something was wrong. Good. In military intelligence, we call this the preparation phase. Soon it would be time for the engagement phase, and they were going to learn why you never corner an old soldier. We don't go quietly. October 22nd. Pinnacle Insurance Group. Jason's first promotion dinner. Regional sales manager to district coordinator. 85 people in the conference room on the 23rd floor. His boss, department heads, company executives. The perfect audience for what they thought would be their triumph. "I want you to come tonight, Dad," Jason had said that morning. "It's important to me." Important. The first time he'd used that word about me in months. "Will there be a lot of people there?" I asked. "Some colleagues. Maybe you should stay home. Big crowds might be confusing for you." Confusing. Always back to that. "I think I can handle it, son." Stephanie looked up from her phone. "Are you sure, Ben? These corporate events can be overwhelming." "I've attended briefings with Joint Chiefs of Staff," I said quietly. "I think I can manage a dinner party." But when we arrived at the Marriott downtown, I understood why they'd been hesitant. This wasn't just a dinner party. It was Jason's audition for bigger things. Regional VP was opening up next year. This promotion was his stepping stone, and I was supposed to be his prop, the pathetic old father who proved what a caring family man he was. "Everyone," Jason announced when we entered the private dining room, "I'd like you to meet my father, Colonel Benjamin Crawford, retired." Polite applause, respectful nods, the kind of automatic courtesy corporate types show to military veterans. "Dad served 30 years in Army intelligence," Jason continued. "Bronze Star recipient. Real American hero." More applause, and for a moment I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Respect. But it didn't last. "Of course he's slowing down a bit," Jason added with that fake concerned smile. "Recent stroke. We're taking care of him now." And just like that, I went from war hero to burden. The conversation shifted. People asked about my service, but in that careful way people talk to someone they think might not understand the answers. "Where did you serve, Colonel?" asked Martha Stevens, the district manager. 30 years active duty," I replied. "Korea, Vietnam, Germany during the Cold War. Last assignment was Peterson Air Force Base, intelligence coordination." "That sounds fascinating," she said, but her eyes had already moved on, looking for someone more relevant to talk to. I was furniture, decoration, proof that Jason came from good stock, but no longer a person worth engaging. During dinner, it got worse. "How's retirement treating you?" asked James Morrison, no relation to the doctor, head of company operations. "I'm staying busy," I said. "Watching a lot of television?" He laughed like he'd made a clever joke. "That's what my dad does now. Game shows all day." "Actually, I've been working on some projects." "Projects?" Stephanie's voice was sharp. She hadn't expected me to say that. "Financial planning, investment research, making sure my affairs are in order." Jason's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Dad, remember what we discussed about not worrying about that stuff?" "What stuff?" asked Morrison. "Dad gets confused about money now," Jason explained to the table. "We've simplified everything for him. Basic checking account, monthly pension. Sometimes he forgets what's real and what he wishes was real. The table got quiet. That uncomfortable silence when someone's family dysfunction spills into public. I don't forget anything, I said calmly. Dad, I remember every investment I've made for 40 years. Every stock purchase, every bond maturity, every dividend payment. Jason's face was getting red. This isn't the place for this conversation. You brought me here to show me off, I said. Show them your father, the veteran. But now you're embarrassed because I might actually remember my own life? That's not what $4.8 million. The words dropped like a bomb in the middle of the dinner conversation. What? Jason's voice cracked. My current net worth, $4.8 million in defense contractor stock, real estate investments, and municipal bonds. All carefully managed for 30 years. All currently generating approximately $12,000 monthly in passive income. The table was staring now. Morrison's eyebrows had shot up. Stevens was leaning forward. Dad, you're confused, Jason said desperately. Your pension is $3,000 a month, that's all. My pension is $3,200 monthly, I corrected. My investment income is $12,000 monthly. My total liquid assets are $4.8 million. Would you like to see the statements? I pulled out my phone, the one they thought I barely knew how to use. Started scrolling through banking apps they didn't know I had. Wells Fargo investment account. Balance, $1.6 million. Schwab trading account. Balance, $2.1 million. Vanguard Municipal Bond Fund. Balance, $1.1 million. Jason's face went white. Stephanie looked like she might throw up. My storage unit, I continued, contains the original documents for all of these accounts, plus property deeds for 3 rental properties I own in Colorado Springs. Monthly rental income, $4,200. Morrison was staring at Jason now. You told us your father needed financial assistance. You thought I was broke, I finished for him. You thought I was the helpless old man who needed your charity, who had nothing but a small pension and some confusion about reality. The whole table was listening now. Company executives, department heads, Jason's colleagues, all watching him squirm. But here's what I don't understand, son, I continued in that same calm voice. If I'm worth $4.8 million and generating $16,000 monthly in combined income, why did you need to take out a $3 million life insurance policy on me? Dead silence. And why, I added, are you $800,000 in debt to Silver Lake Gaming Corporation? Jason stood up so fast his chair fell over. We're leaving now. Actually, we're not. Dad, I said we're leaving. And I said we're not. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. 30 years of command authority doesn't just disappear because you have a stroke. Sit down, son. We're going to finish this conversation. But Jason was already walking toward the exit, Stephanie right behind him. Morrison stood up. Mr. Crawford, perhaps you'd like to stay and finish dinner. I think the company would very much like to hear more about your situation. That's when Jason realized what had just happened. He'd brought me here to prop up his image as the caring family man. Instead, I'd just exposed him as the lying, gambling, potentially murderous son who'd been stealing from and manipulating his own father. In front of his boss, his colleagues, the people who would decide his future, as they rushed toward the exit, I heard Stephanie hiss, You said he didn't remember anything. He wasn't supposed to, but I did remember. Everything. And now, so would everyone else. October 28th, 2:15 p.m., the phone call that changed everything. Colonel Crawford, this is General Barnes. I have reviewed your situation with the appropriate authorities. Are you ready to proceed? I was alone in the house. Jason and Stephanie had gone to some emergency meeting at Pinnacle. Damage control from the dinner disaster. Linda was at Meadowbrook, probably crying on Max's shoulder about her terrible life. Perfect timing. I'm ready, General. Detective Foster is en route to your location with a warrant for audio evidence collection. Attorney Penn is coordinating with the district attorney's office. We'll need you to present everything you have. Everything's prepared. Good. And Colonel? Yes, ma'am? For what it's worth, I'm proud of how you've handled this. Most people would have panicked or lashed out. You stayed tactical. Stayed tactical. Military speak for kept your head, and executed the mission. 20 minutes later, Detective Foster arrived. Not in uniform. Plain clothes, unmarked car, professional discretion. Colonel, I need to hear the recordings first. Confirm we have sufficient evidence for prosecution. I handed him my iPhone. 47 recordings, all time-stamped, all clearly audible. He listened to the first one. The kitchen conversation from October 15th. The life insurance payout is $3 million. We just need to wait. His expression darkened. How much longer? Dr. Morrison says maybe 2 weeks. The new dosage should do it. His heart can't take much more stress. Foster looked up at me. They're discussing murdering you, in detail, with a specific timeline. Yes, they are. He listened to 3 more recordings. Jason discussing my confusion. Stephanie researching medication interactions. The conversation about Dr. Morrison's involvement. This is conspiracy to commit murder, Foster said, plus insurance fraud, elder abuse, and medical malpractice. We can prosecute all of them. What about the gambling debts? I'll need to see those documents. I led him to the basement, my documentation station behind the water heater. 6 weeks of careful evidence collection, organized like a military intelligence briefing. Foster whistled low. Colonel, this is the most thoroughly documented case I've ever seen. Bank statements showing Jason's debts. Printed emails between him and Silver Lake Casino. Photos of Stephanie with Dr. Morrison. Research printouts about untraceable poisons. You've got motive, means, opportunity, and premeditation, Foster said, plus conspiracy and evidence of ongoing attempts. He bagged the pills I'd been saving, the ones Stephanie thought I was swallowing. We'll have these analyzed today. If they've been altered, that's attempted murder with physical evidence. What about the timing? I asked. Timing for what? For making this public. I want them to face consequences in front of the people who matter to them. Foster grinned. Colonel, I think I know exactly what you have in mind. November 5th. Jason's second corporate dinner. This time it was bigger. Regional VP announcement. The promotion he'd been chasing. 200 people in the grand ballroom at the Marriott. Company executives from 3 states. Board members. Local press covering Pinnacle's hometown success story. Jason had begged me not to come. Dad, after last time, maybe it's better if you stay home. I wouldn't miss it for the world, son. What? He looked sick. Stephanie kept checking her phone nervously. They knew something was wrong, but they couldn't figure out what. The investigation had been completely covert. No arrests yet. No public announcements. Just quiet evidence gathering and coordination between agencies. As far as they knew, I was still the confused old man they were slowly poisoning. We arrived at 6 p.m. Jason in his best suit, Stephanie in a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension, both of them smiling those fake corporate smiles. I wore my dress uniform, full colonel's eagles on my shoulders, combat infantry badge, ranger tab, bronze star with cluster, 30 years of ribbons representing service they'd dismissed as meaningless. The effect was immediate. Conversation stopped when I walked in. People stood up. Military bearing commands respect in ways civilian clothes never can. Colonel Crawford, said David Harrison, Pinnacle's CEO, it's an honor to meet you. Jason speaks of you often. I'm sure he does, I replied. 30 years of service, I understand. Intelligence work? Among other things. Harrison nodded respectfully. We're grateful for your sacrifice. Both you and Jason should be proud. Jason was sweating now. Stephanie kept glancing toward the exits. They knew this felt wrong, but they couldn't identify the threat. That's when General Barnes entered the ballroom. Full dress uniform, 2 stars gleaming on her shoulders, 52 years old, built like the paratrooper she used to be. The room went silent. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, Imagine General Elizabeth Barnes, United States Army, Pentagon Liaison for Veteran Affairs. I'm here tonight to honor one of our finest. She walked directly to me, stood at attention. Colonel Benjamin Crawford, 30 years of faithful service to our nation, Bronze Star recipient, a true American hero. The applause was thunderous, 200 people on their feet. But I wasn't done yet. Thank you, General, I said, taking the microphone. It's fitting that we're here tonight to celebrate achievement and recognize dedication to family values. Jason's face went white. Because family is what this is really about, I continued. The bonds of trust between people who are supposed to protect each other. Stephanie started moving toward the door. Which is why, I said, I'm deeply grateful to the Colorado Springs Police Department for their investigation into the attempt on my life. Dead silence. You could hear the air conditioning. Investigation? Harrison asked. Detective Foster stepped out from behind a service door, still in plain clothes, but now showing his badge. Detective Samuel Foster, Colorado Springs PD. I have warrants for the arrest of Jason Crawford and Stephanie Crawford for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and elder abuse. The ballroom erupted. People were standing, shouting questions, pulling out phones. Security tried to block the exits, but Jason was already running, Stephanie right behind him. They made it maybe 20 feet. 2 more detectives were waiting by the doors. Jason Crawford, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder. The Miranda rights echoed through the ballroom as photographers captured every moment. Jason on his knees, hands cuffed behind his back. Stephanie crying as they led her away. CEO Harrison stood there, stunned. Colonel, we had no idea. Of course you didn't, I said calmly. They're very good at deception, very poor at planning. The insurance policy, $3 million. They needed me dead to collect it. Unfortunately for them, I needed them arrested to live. Harrison was shaking his head. We'll be conducting a full investigation of Jason's activities at Pinnacle. If there's evidence of embezzlement... There is, I said. Detective Foster has all the documentation. General Barnes stepped forward. Colonel Crawford has provided 6 weeks of audio recordings, financial documents, and physical evidence. This is one of the most thoroughly documented attempted murder cases in Colorado history. As they led Jason and Stephanie through the crowd in handcuffs, Jason looked back at me, not with anger, not with hatred, with recognition. For the first time in months, he was seeing me clearly, not the confused old man he'd been manipulating, the intelligence officer who'd outmaneuvered him completely. You planned this, he said. I executed a mission, I corrected. You provided the intelligence, I just gathered it. The last thing I saw was his face as the elevator doors closed, finally understanding that he'd never been the hunter. He'd always been the prey. November 12th, 9:00 a.m., Colorado Springs Courthouse. The arraignment was standing room only. Local media, company executives, casino representatives, military personnel. General Barnes sat in the front row, full dress uniform. I testified for 43 minutes, audio evidence first. The court heard Stephanie's voice. The life insurance payout is $3 million. We just need to wait. Then Jason. How much longer? Dr. Morrison says maybe 2 weeks. The new dosage should do it. The prosecutor played 17 recordings, each one building the case for premeditated murder. Financial evidence next. Jason's gambling debts, $485,000 to Silver Lake Gaming Corporation, interest compounding weekly, threats of physical violence if payment wasn't received by November 1st. My real financial records. $4.8 million in assets they'd tried to hide from me. Investment accounts generating $12,000 monthly income they'd convinced me didn't exist. The insurance policy, $3 million death benefit, $850 monthly premiums automatically deducted from what they told me was my only account. Medical evidence was devastating. The pills they'd been giving me tested positive for digitoxin, 3 times the therapeutic dose, enough to cause cardiac arrest in a man my age. Dr. Morrison's involvement, falsified medical records, altered prescriptions, preparation for natural death certification, Stephanie's pharmaceutical research, printed articles about untraceable poisons, handwritten notes about Medicare investigation protocols, physical evidence, photographs of secret meetings, documented casino visits, recorded conversations about my deteriorating mental state. Your Honor, the prosecutor concluded, this wasn't a crime of passion. This was a systematic, calculated plan to murder an elderly veteran for insurance money. The evidence is overwhelming. Jason's lawyer tried damage control. Your Honor, my client was under tremendous financial pressure. He was desperate to provide care for his aging father. His actions, while misguided, came from a place of love. Love, the word echoed in the courtroom. Mr. Crawford, the judge said, addressing Jason directly, you've heard the evidence against you. Do you have anything to say? Jason stood up, looked across the courtroom at me. For a moment I thought he might apologize, might show some remorse for betraying the man who'd raised him. Instead, he said, he was dying anyway. The stroke, his age, his health problems, we just accelerated the timeline. Accelerated the timeline. That's how he described planning to murder his own father. The judge's face hardened. Mr. Crawford, you've just confessed to attempted murder in my courtroom. Bail is denied. Stephanie's hearing was next. Her lawyer pleaded pharmaceutical expertise, claiming she'd been manipulated by Dr. Morrison. My client is a respected sales representative with no criminal history. She was following medical guidance from a licensed physician. But the prosecutor had Dr. Morrison's testimony. He'd already pled guilty in exchange for cooperation. Dr. Morrison states that Ms. Crawford initiated contact about accelerating Mr. Crawford's death. She provided the pharmaceutical research. She suggested the specific medications and dosages. This was her plan. Stephanie broke down completely, sobbing, claiming she'd never intended real harm. We just wanted him to sleep more, she cried, to be more peaceful. The death was supposed to be natural. Natural. While injecting me with 3 times the normal dose of heart medication, bail denied for her too. Dr. Morrison got 15 years, medical license revoked permanently, $2.3 million in civil penalties. The casino debt was interesting. Silver Lake Gaming Corporation had been investigating Jason's account irregularities. When they learned about the insurance scheme, they cooperated fully with prosecutors. Turned out Jason had been claiming wins he'd never achieved, borrowing against collateral he didn't own. The $485,000 debt was just the beginning. Total exposure was closer to $1.2 million. Pinnacle Insurance Group fired Jason immediately, conducted a full audit of his client accounts, found $127,000 in missing escrow funds, filed separate criminal charges for embezzlement. His career was over, his reputation destroyed, his freedom gone. November 19th. Stephanie's medical board hearing. I didn't attend, but Detective Foster called with the results. License suspended immediately, criminal charges filed separately. She'll never work in pharmaceuticals again. What about the other cases? Other cases? If she was willing to poison me for money, she's probably done this before. Foster was quiet for a moment. Colonel, we're opening an investigation into unexplained deaths among her previous clients. Elderly patients, cardiac issues, insurance payouts. How many cases? Possibly 7 over the past 3 years. 7 elderly people. 7 families who trusted their loved ones to professional care. 7 potential murders disguised as natural deaths. All because no one had ever caught her before, but they caught her now. Linda's divorce proceeding was scheduled for December 15th. She'd hired an expensive attorney, claiming spousal abandonment and emotional distress. Her lawyer demanded half my assets, $2.4 million in cash and investments. My attorney presented evidence of her affair with Max Walsh. Photos, hotel receipts, text messages, planning their new life together. Colorado is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery affects alimony calculations, especially when the adultery involves planning to abandon your spouse during a medical emergency. Linda got nothing. 0 alimony, no claim on investments or property acquired during the marriage. She moved in with Max. They lasted 6 weeks. Turns out golf instructors don't make enough money to support the lifestyle she'd been planning. Last I heard, she was working at a department store in Denver, selling cosmetics to pay rent on a studio apartment. The $3 million insurance policy was canceled immediately. Northwestern Mutual refunded the premiums I'd paid, $5,100 over 6 months. But they also paid me a settlement, $75,000 for the attempted fraud committed using their policy. Justice isn't always perfect, but sometimes it's precise. My family had tried to murder me for money. Now they had no family, no money, and no future. while I was still alive, still wealthy, and finally free to live without fear. Perfect seemed close enough. December 1st, 2024, sentencing day. Jason got 25 years without parole. Conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, elder abuse, insurance fraud, embezzlement. The judge was thorough in his condemnation. Mr. Crawford, you betrayed the most sacred trust in human society, the bond between parent and child. Your father served this country with distinction for 30 years. In return, you tried to murder him for insurance money. 25 years. Jason would be 64 when he got out. If he got out. Stephanie received 18 years. Attempted murder, conspiracy, pharmaceutical fraud, practicing medicine without a license. Her victims' families attended the sentencing. 7 elderly people who died under suspicious circumstances while she was their pharmaceutical consultant. 7 families who would never get justice for their loved ones, but could at least see justice for me. Dr. Morrison was already serving his 15-year sentence. Medical license permanently revoked. His practice closed immediately. Pending civil suits from patient families totaling $8.7 million, professional consequences don't end at the courthouse. Pinnacle Insurance Group underwent federal investigation. The Securities and Exchange Commission found systematic escrow account manipulation dating back 3 years. $347,000 in missing client funds, 27 fraudulent claims, 15 policy alterations without client knowledge. The company settled for $2.3 million in penalties, restructured completely, fired 18 employees for compliance violations. Jason's direct supervisor, who'd approved several suspicious transactions, received 5 years federal prison time. The promotion he'd been chasing, eliminated permanently. The department he'd worked in, dissolved. Silver Lake Gaming Corporation cooperated with prosecutors, but faced their own penalties. Gaming Commission found violations in their debt collection practices. $150,000 fine for threatening violence against debtors. Mandatory restructuring of collection protocols. Permanent audit requirements for high-stakes gaming accounts. The casino industry doesn't like federal attention. Silver Lake's cooperation helped minimize their exposure, but other casinos started implementing stricter lending controls. Jason's gambling problem became a case study in addiction-driven crime. Social consequences were immediate and lasting. The Meadowbrook Country Club canceled Linda's membership. Adultery clauses in their community standards. Max Walsh was fired as golf instructor. Community reputation matters in suburban Colorado. Word travels fast about betrayal, especially involving veterans. Linda found herself unemployable in her professional network. Administrative assistant positions in real estate? Not when everyone knows you abandoned your war hero husband during his medical crisis. She moved to Phoenix, started over with a different name, different story. Last I heard, she was working retail at a shopping mall. 48 years of marriage reduced to selling purses to strangers. Max's golf career ended permanently. No country club would hire someone involved in elder abuse scandal. He moved to Florida, works maintenance at a driving range. The professional network in golf instruction is small and talkative. Dr. Morrison's medical colleagues faced their own scrutiny. Hospital administrators reviewed every case he'd been involved with over the past 5 years. 17 additional instances of suspicious medication protocols. 9 unexplained patient deaths where he'd been consulting physician. 3 more doctors lost licenses for failure to report concerning behavior. Medical board implemented new oversight requirements for end-of-life care protocols. But the consequences extended beyond legal and professional punishment. Pinnacle's corporate culture changed permanently. New ethics training, mandatory reporting requirements, independent oversight of client accounts. The veteran community responded with protective fury. Military assistance programs increased funding for elder care oversight. General Barnes spearheaded new protocols for identifying financial exploitation of veterans. My case became training material for military police, VA social workers, and veteran service organizations. Sometimes justice is about more than individual punishment. It's about preventing future victims. The media attention was substantial, but respectful. Military service earned me privacy most crime victims don't receive. Interview requests from national networks, true crime podcasts, documentary filmmakers. I declined them all. This wasn't about publicity. It was about principle. My financial situation improved dramatically once I regained control of my accounts. $4.8 million in assets, generating $16,000 monthly in combined investment and rental income. No more family obligations, no more manipulation, no more fear. I moved into a 2-bedroom townhouse near Peterson Air Force Base, close to military facilities, far from suburban treachery. Veterans Affairs connected me with other retired intelligence officers in the area, men and women who understood the value of operational security, community built on mutual respect, shared service, earned trust. Everything my family had abandoned, my new community provided. Christmas 2024. I received 3 cards. General Barnes from Washington, Detective Foster from Colorado Springs Police, Attorney Penn from his law practice. Professional relationships that had become personal respect. No cards from family, no calls, no contact. For the first time in months, the silence felt like victory. They'd tried to erase me from their lives to claim my money. Instead, I'd erase them from my life to reclaim my peace. Justice served. Mission accomplished. Honor intact. Sometimes that's enough. January 15th, 2025, my 75th birthday. I spent it alone, and it was perfect. No fake family dinner with people counting my breaths. No pretend celebration while they planned my funeral. Just coffee on my patio, watching the sunrise over Pikes Peak, reading congratulatory messages from real friends. General Barnes called it 0800 sharp. Military precision never changes. Happy birthday, Colonel. Any regrets about how this all played out? I thought about it, really considered the question. None whatsoever, General. The mission was successful. Your family might disagree. They stopped being my family the moment they started planning my murder. She was quiet for a moment. What's next for you? I'm consulting with VA Fraud Investigation Unit, helping them identify financial exploitation patterns targeting elderly veterans. Staying in the fight. Always. Because that's what this was really about. Not revenge, not money, not even justice, exactly. It was about maintaining standards, setting boundaries, refusing to let people mistake kindness for weakness. For 30 years in the military, I'd defended principles worth dying for. Turns out, they were also worth living for. The new will was filed on January 2nd. $8 million in assets, divided among military charities. Wounded Warrior Project, $1.2 million. Veterans Legal Aid Society, $1.2 million. Military Intelligence Association Scholarship Fund, $1.2 million. Fisher House Foundation, $1.2 million. Organizations that honor service instead of exploiting it. People who understand that a man's worth isn't measured by his bank account, but by his character under pressure. Jason and Stephanie will appeal their convictions. They'll claim procedural errors, prosecutorial misconduct, inadequate legal representation. They'll lose. The evidence was overwhelming, the procedures flawless, the legal representation competent. But they'll try, because people like them always believe they're smarter than everyone else, even when sitting in prison jumpsuits. Some lessons are only learned through consequences. I've made peace with the fact that my son chose greed over family, that my wife chose lust over loyalty, that people I trusted chose betrayal over honor, their choices, their consequences, their lives to live with the results. My choice was simpler: survive with dignity and tact. Mission accomplished. The phone rings sometimes, restricted numbers, collect calls from correctional facilities. I don't answer. Some conversations are over permanently. Some boundaries, once established, never change. If you're watching this, remember, respect isn't something you lose when you age. It's something you maintain through the choices you make. Choose wisely. The consequences last longer than you think. And sometimes, The old soldier you underestimate is the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face. Semper Fi. Stay strong and never surrender.